I've always been drawn to the unknown. Maybe it's because I grew up in a town where the line between reality and folklore was so blurred that even the adults whispered about things they couldn't explain. Our town, Black Hollow, was one of those places where the past never really died. It lingered in the creak of old floorboards, the rustle of dead leaves in the wind, and the stories passed down from generation to generation. Most people avoided the darker tales, but not me. I craved them, and so did my friends. That's why, when I received the invitation, I didn't hesitate. It arrived on a Thursday evening, slipped under the door of my apartment. The envelope was plain, but the handwriting on the front was elegant, almost archaic. My name, Emma, was written in swirling ink that seemed to shimmer under the light. Inside was a single sheet of parchment, the edges slightly burnt, as if it had been rescued from a fire. The message was short and to the point. You are cordially invited to an evening of exploration and discovery. Meet at the old Blackwell Manor at midnight. Come alone. Tell no one. There was no signature, no return address, just those words, written in the same elegant script. I should have been suspicious. I should have thrown it away, but I didn't. Instead, I felt a thrill run through me. Blackwell Manor was the most infamous location in Black Hollow. Abandoned for over a century, it was said to be cursed. People claimed to hear whispers coming from its crumbling walls and to see shadows moving in its broken windows. No one went near it. Not even the bravest kids dared to step foot on its overgrown grounds. But I wasn't most people, and neither were my friends. I called them immediately. There were 4 of us. Me, my best friend since childhood, Lila, her boyfriend Jake, and Mia, the newest addition to our group. Mia was quiet, almost mysterious, but she shared our fascination with the supernatural. When I told them about the invitation, they were just as intrigued as I was. This has to be a prank, Jake said, his voice tinged with skepticism. No one just sends out invitations to Blackwell Manor. It's a death trap. Or it's someone who knows we're into this stuff, Lila countered. Maybe it's a dare, or a challenge. Either way, we're going, right? Mia asked, her voice soft but firm. There was something in her tone that made me pause. It wasn't excitement, it was more like determination. Of course we're going, I said. This could be the most exciting thing that's ever happened to us. Midnight found us standing at the edge of the woods, staring up at Blackwell Manor. The moon was full, casting an eerie silver light over the crumbling structure. The manor loomed like a specter, its windows dark and empty, its roof sagging under the weight of time. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying wood. It was silent, too silent, as if even the insects knew to stay away. This is it, I whispered, my breath visible in the cold night air. Are we really doing this? We're here, aren't we? Jake said, though he didn't sound as confident as he usually did. He shifted his weight from foot to foot, his flashlight flickering in his hand. Lila grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. Do you hear that? She asked, her voice barely audible. I strained my ears. At first, there was nothing. Then, faintly, I heard it, a low, rhythmic hum, like a chant or a prayer. It was coming from inside the manor. Let's go, Mia said, stepping forward. She didn't wait for us to respond. She just started walking toward the manor, her figure silhouetted against the moonlight. We followed her, our footsteps crunching on the gravel path that led to the front door. The door was slightly ajar, as if someone, or something, had been expecting us. The hum grew louder as we approached, vibrating in my chest. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I pushed it aside. This was what I had been waiting for. The interior of the manor was even more decrepit than the outside. The floorboards groaned under our weight, and the air was thick with dust. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, and the furniture was rotted and broken. But what caught my attention was the circle of candles in the center of the room. They were arranged in a perfect ring, their flames flickering despite the lack of wind. In the center of the circle was a Ouija board. "What the hell?" Jake muttered, his flashlight sweeping over the scene. "Who set this up?" "I don't know," I said, stepping closer. The hum was coming from the candles, I realized. It was as if the flames themselves were singing. "This is so creepy," Lila whispered, clutching Jake's arm. "We should leave." "No," Mia said, her voice firm. She was already kneeling beside the Ouija board, her fingers hovering over the planchette. "This is why we're here. We have to see this through." I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "She's right. We can't back out now." We formed a circle around the board, each of us placing a hand on the planchette. The wood was cold beneath my fingers, but as soon as we all made contact, it began to warm. The hum grew louder, filling the room, vibrating in my bones. "Is there someone here with us?" Mia asked, her voice steady. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the planchette began to move. It glided across the board, stopping on the word "yes." I felt a jolt of excitement mixed with fear. This was real. This was actually happening. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. The planchette moved again, spelling out a single word: "friend." "What do you want?" Jake asked, his voice tight with tension. The planchette didn't move. Instead, the candles flared, their flames shooting up into the air before settling back down. The hum grew louder, almost deafening. "I think it wants us to ask better questions," Mia said, her eyes fixed on the board. "Let's try something more specific." "Okay," I said, taking a deep breath. "What is your name?" The planchette moved again, slower this time, as if the spirit was considering its answer. It spelt out Notimportant. "Not important?" Lila repeated, her voice shaking. "What does that mean?" Before anyone could respond, the planchette moved again, this time on its own. It spelt out Oneatatime. "One at a time?" I asked, confused. "What does that mean?" The candles flared again, and the hum grew even louder. The planchette moved once more, spelling out Telljakeetoleave. Jake's hand jerked away from the planchette as if he'd been burnt. "What the hell?" he said, his voice rising. "Why me?" "I don't know," I said, my heart pounding, "but maybe we should listen." Jake looked at me, then at the others. "This is insane," he said, backing away. "I'm out of here." "Jake, wait," Lila started, but he was already heading for the door. The moment he stepped outside, the candles dimmed and the hum faded to a whisper. The planchette moved again, spelling out NEXT. "Next?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What does that mean?" Mia looked at me, her expression unreadable. "It means it's my turn," she said, her voice calm. "I'll go next." Mia didn't wait for us to respond. She knelt in front of the Ouija board, her hands steady as she placed her fingers on the planchette. The candles flickered, casting long shadows across the room. The hum had faded to a faint whisper, but the air felt heavier, as if the manor itself was holding its breath. "Mia, are you sure about this?" Lila asked, her voice trembling. She was still standing near the door, her eyes darting between Mia and the darkness beyond the circle of candles. Jake had left, and his absence made the room feel emptier, more ominous. "I'm sure," Mia said, her voice calm but firm. She didn't look at us. Her focus was entirely on the board. "This is why we're here. We need to see this through." I wanted to argue, to tell her that maybe we should leave while we still could. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way the candles flickered, or the way the planchette seemed to hum faintly under her touch. Or maybe it was the look in Mia's eyes, a mix of determination and something else, something I couldn't quite place. "Okay," I said finally, stepping closer. "But be careful." Mia nodded, her gaze fixed on the board. "Spirit," she began, her voice steady. "What do you want from us?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the planchette began to move. It glided across the board, stopping on the word knowledge. "Knowledge?" Lila repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "What kind of knowledge?" The planchette moved again, spelling out YOURS. "Ours?" I asked, my heart pounding. "What does that mean?" Mia didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the board, her expression unreadable. The planchette moved again, this time faster, as if the spirit was growing impatient. It spelt out ASKME. "Ask you what?" Mia said, her voice calm but with an edge of curiosity. The planchette moved again, spelling out ANYTHING. Mia hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Okay," she said, "what is my biggest fear?" The candles flared, their flames shooting up into the air before settling back down. The hum grew louder, vibrating in my chest. The planchette began to move, slowly at first, then faster, as if the spirit was eager to answer. It spelt out BEINGFORGOTTEN. Mia's breath hitched, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of emotion cross her face. She looked shaken, but she didn't pull her hands away from the planchette. Instead, she took a deep breath and asked another question. "What is the happiest moment of my life?" The planchette moved again, slower this time, as if the spirit was considering its answer. It spelt out NOTYET. "Not yet?" Mia repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "What does that mean?" The candles flickered, and the hum grew louder. The planchette moved again, spelling out YOUWILLKNOW. Mia looked up at me, her eyes wide. "This is weird," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "It's like it knows things about me, things I haven't even figured out yet." "Maybe we should stop," Lila said, her voice shaking. She was still standing near the door, her arms wrapped around herself. "This is getting too personal." "No," Mia said, her voice firm. "We need to keep going. This is important." Before anyone could argue, the planchette moved again, this time on its own. It spelt out TELLLILATOLEAVE. Lila's eyes widened, and she took a step back. "What? Why me?" "I don't know," I said, my heart pounding. "But maybe we should listen." Lila looked at me, then at Mia. "This is insane," she said, her voice rising. "I'm not leaving you two here alone." "Lila, it's okay," Mia said, her voice calm but firm. "We'll be fine. Just wait outside." Lila hesitated, her eyes darting between us and the board. Finally, she nodded. "Okay," she said, her voice trembling. "But if anything happens, you call for me." "We will," I said, though I wasn't sure if that was true. The moment Lila stepped outside, the candles dimmed, and the hum faded to a whisper. The planchette moved again, spelling out NEXT. "Next?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What does that mean?" Mia looked at me, her expression unreadable. "It means it's your turn," she said, her voice calm. "You're up." I stared at the Ouija board, my heart pounding in my chest. The planchette sat motionless, waiting for me to make the next move. The candles flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls of Blackwell Manor. The air felt heavy, charged with an energy I couldn't explain. Mia was watching me, her expression calm but expectant. She had taken her turn, and now it was mine. "Okay," I said, my voice trembling as I placed my fingers on the planchette. The wood was cold beneath my touch, but as soon as I made contact, it began to warm, just as it had before. The hum returned, faint but unmistakable, vibrating in my chest. "Spirit," I began, my voice shaky. "What do you want from me?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the planchette began to move. It glided across the board, stopping on the word, truth. "Truth?" I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. "What truth?" The planchette moved again, spelling out YOURS. "Mine?" I asked, my heart racing. "What do you mean?" The candles flared, their flames shooting up into the air before settling back down. The hum grew louder, vibrating in my bones. The planchette moved again, faster this time, as if the spirit was eager to answer. It spelt out ASKME. "Ask you what?" I said, my voice trembling. The planchette moved again, spelling out ANYTHING. I hesitated, my mind racing. What could I ask? What did I even want to know? The spirit had already revealed so much to Mia, things about her fears, her future. What would it tell me? "Okay," I said, taking a deep breath. "What is my biggest fear?" The candles flickered, and the hum grew louder. The planchette began to move, slowly at first, then faster, as if the spirit was eager to answer. It spelt out LOSINGTHEM. "Losing them?" I repeated, my voice shaking. "Losing who?" The planchette moved again, spelling out EVERYONE. I felt a chill run down my spine. The answer was vague, but it hit too close to home. I had always been afraid of losing the people I cared about, my friends, my family. It was a fear I rarely admitted, even to myself. How could the spirit know that? "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Is something going to happen to them?" The candles flared again, and the hum grew louder, almost deafening. The planchette moved again, spelling out SOON. "Soon?" I repeated, my heart pounding. "What's going to happen?" The planchette didn't move. Instead, the candles dimmed, and the hum faded to a whisper. The air felt heavier, more oppressive. I looked at Mia, my eyes wide with fear. "What does that mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Mia didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the board, her expression unreadable. The planchette moved again, this time on its own. It spelt out THEYARENOTWHOTHEYSEEM. "What?" I said, my voice rising. "Who's not who they seem?" The planchette moved again, spelling out YOURFRIENDS. I felt a jolt of fear. My friends? What did that mean? Jake had already left, and Lila was waiting outside. Mia was here with me, her hands still on the planchette. Was the spirit talking about her? Or was it someone else? "Which friend?" I asked, my voice trembling. The candles flared, and the hum grew louder. The planchette moved again, spelling out ONEOFTHEM. "One of them?" I repeated, my heart racing. "Which one?" The planchette didn't move. Instead, the candles dimmed, and the hum faded to a whisper. The air felt heavier, more oppressive. I looked at Mia, my eyes wide with fear. "Mia," I said, my voice shaking. "What does this mean?" Mia didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the board, her expression unreadable. The planchette moved again, this time on its own. It spelt out THEYAREHERE. "Who's here?" I asked, my voice rising. "What are you talking about?" The candles flared, and the hum grew louder, almost deafening. The planchette moved again, spelling out TOTAKEYOU. "Take me?" I repeated, my heart pounding. "Who's going to take me?" The planchette didn't move. Instead, The candles dimmed, and the hum faded to a whisper. The air felt heavier, more oppressive. I looked at Mia, my eyes wide with fear. "Mia," I said, my voice trembling, "we need to leave. Now." Mia didn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the board, her expression unreadable. The planchette moved again, this time on its own. It spelt out TOOLATE. The moment the planchette spelt out too late, the candles flared one last time, their flames shooting up into the air before extinguishing completely. The room was plunged into darkness, and the hum that had filled the air vanished, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. My heart was pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I couldn't see Mia, but I could feel her presence beside me, her breathing shallow and uneven. "Mia," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Are you okay?" She didn't answer. Instead, I heard the sound of her standing up, her footsteps soft against the creaking floorboards. I fumbled for my phone, turning on the flashlight. The beam of light cut through the darkness, illuminating Mia's face. She was pale, her eyes wide and unfocused, as if she were in a trance. "Mia, talk to me," I said, my voice rising in panic. "What's going on?" She didn't respond. Instead, she turned and walked toward the door, her movements slow and deliberate. I followed her, my phone's flashlight shaking in my hand. The hallway outside the room was just as dark, the air thick with the scent of mildew and decay. Mia didn't stop. She kept walking, her footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. "Mia, stop!" I called after her, but she didn't listen. She turned a corner, disappearing from view. I hurried after her, my heart racing. The manor felt alive, its walls closing in around me, its shadows shifting and twisting in the dim light. I turned the corner and saw Mia standing at the end of the hallway, her back to me. She was staring at something, a door, old and weathered, with a rusted handle. "Mia, what are you doing?" I asked, my voice trembling. "We need to leave, now." She didn't answer. Instead, she reached out and turned the handle, pushing the door open. A cold draft swept through the hallway, carrying with it the faint scent of earth and something else. Something metallic, like blood. My stomach churned, but I couldn't look away. Mia stepped through the doorway, disappearing into the darkness beyond. "Mia!" I shouted, running after her. I reached the doorway and shone my flashlight inside. The room was small, its walls lined with shelves filled with jars and bottles. The air was thick with dust, and the floor was covered in a layer of grime. Mia was standing in the center of the room, her back still to me. She was holding something in her hands, a small, ornate box, its surface covered in intricate carvings. "Mia, what is that?" I asked, my voice shaking. "What are you doing?" She didn't answer. Instead, she opened the box, revealing a small, blackened object inside. I couldn't tell what it was, but it gave off a strange energy, like a low hum that vibrated in my chest. Mia reached into the box and pulled out the object, holding it up to the light. It was a ring, old and tarnished, with a single dark stone set in the center. "Mia, put that down," I said, my voice rising in panic. "We need to leave, now." She didn't listen. Instead, she slipped the ring onto her finger. The moment she did, the air in the room shifted, growing colder, heavier. The hum returned, louder this time, vibrating in my bones. Mia turned to face me, her eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "Mia?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "What's happening?" She didn't answer. Instead, she smiled, a slow, eerie smile that sent a chill down my spine. Her voice, when she spoke, was not her own. It was deeper, darker, filled with a malice that made my blood run cold. "Thank you," she said, her voice echoing in the small room. "You've been most helpful." "Mia, what are you talking about?" I asked, my voice shaking. "What's going on?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped closer, her movements slow and deliberate. I backed away, my heart pounding in my chest. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in around me. The hum grew louder, almost deafening, vibrating in my skull. "You shouldn't have come here," Mia said, her voice cold and distant. "But now that you're here, you'll serve your purpose." "What purpose?" I asked, my voice rising in panic. "Mia, what are you talking about?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached out, her fingers brushing against my arm. The touch was cold, like ice, and it sent a jolt of fear through me. I stumbled back, my phone slipping from my hand and clattering to the floor. The flashlight went out, plunging the room into darkness. "Mia, please," I begged, my voice trembling. "This isn't you. You need to fight it." She didn't respond. Instead, I heard her footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving closer. I backed away until I hit the wall, my heart racing. The hum grew louder, vibrating in my chest, in my skull. I could feel it, pressing against me, suffocating me. And then, suddenly, it stopped. The room was silent, the air still. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and uneven. I fumbled for my phone, turning on the flashlight. The beam of light cut through the darkness, illuminating the room. Mia was gone. The box was gone. The only thing left was the ring, lying on the floor in the center of the room. I stared at it, my heart pounding. The stone in the center of the ring glinted in the light, dark and malevolent. I knew I shouldn't touch it, but I couldn't help myself. I reached out, my fingers trembling as I picked it up. The moment I did, the hum returned, faint but unmistakable, vibrating in my chest. And then I heard it, a voice, faint and distant, whispering in my ear.
"You're next."
The voice echoed in my mind, cold and insidious, as I stared at the ring lying on the floor. The hum had faded, but the air was still heavy, charged with an energy that made my skin crawl. I knew I had to get out of there, now. I left the ring where it was, backing away slowly, my breath coming in shallow gasps. "Mia!" I called out again, my voice trembling. "Lila? Jake? Anyone?" No answer. The manor was silent, the only sound the creak of old floorboards beneath my feet. I turned and ran down the hallway, my phone's flashlight bouncing wildly as I sprinted toward the front door. The shadows seemed to reach for me, twisting and shifting in the dim light. I could feel something, someone watching me, but I didn't dare look back. I burst through the front door, the cold night air hitting me like a slap. The moon was still high, casting an eerie silver light over the overgrown grounds of Blackwell Manor. I scanned the area, my heart pounding, but there was no sign of Mia, Lila, or Jake. The forest loomed in the distance, dark and foreboding. "Lila!" I shouted, my voice cracking. "Jake, where are you?" Still no answer. I pulled out my phone and tried calling Lila, but there was no signal. Of course. Blackwell Manor was in the middle of nowhere, and the forest swallowed any chance of getting a connection. I was alone. I turned back toward the manor, my mind racing. I couldn't leave without knowing what had happened to Mia. She had been my friend, my real friend, and whatever had taken control of her, I couldn't just abandon her to it. But the thought of going back inside made my stomach churn. Before I could decide, I heard a sound, a faint rustling in the trees. I turned, shining my flashlight toward the forest. The beam of light caught a figure standing at the edge of the trees. It was Lila. "Lila?" I shouted, relief flooding through me. "Thank God, where's Jake? Where's Mia?" She didn't answer. She just stood there, her face pale, her eyes wide and unfocused. I started toward her, but something about the way she was standing made me stop. She looked wrong. Her movements were stiff, unnatural, as if she were being controlled by something else. "Lila?" I said, my voice trembling. "Are you okay?" She didn't respond. Instead, she raised her arm and pointed back toward the manor. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. And then, slowly, she turned and walked into the forest, disappearing into the darkness. "Lila, wait!" I shouted, running after her. But by the time I reached the edge of the trees, she was gone. The forest was silent, the only sound the rustle of leaves in the wind. I shone my flashlight into the trees, but there was no sign of her. I stood there for a moment, my heart pounding, trying to make sense of what was happening. The spirit, or whatever it was, had taken Mia, and now it seemed to have Lila too. And Jake. I had no idea where Jake was. He had left earlier, but had he made it out? Or had something happened to him as well? I turned back toward the manor, my mind racing. I couldn't leave without answers. I had to know what was going on. I took a deep breath and started back toward the house, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. As I approached the front door, I heard a sound. A faint whisper, like someone calling my name. I froze, my heart pounding. The whisper grew louder, more insistent, until it was all I could hear. It was coming from inside the manor. I stepped through the door, my flashlight illuminating the dusty foyer. The whisper was coming from upstairs. I climbed the stairs slowly, my footsteps echoing in the empty house. The air grew colder with each step, and the hum returned, faint but unmistakable, vibrating in my chest. At the top of the stairs, I saw a door slightly ajar, a faint glow coming from inside. I pushed the door open and stepped into the room. It was a bedroom, the walls covered in peeling wallpaper, the floor littered with broken furniture. In the center of the room was a mirror, its surface cracked and tarnished. The glow was coming from the mirror, a faint, eerie light that seemed to pulse in time with the hum. I stepped closer, my reflection distorted in the cracked glass. And then I saw it, a figure standing behind me. I spun around, my flashlight illuminating the room, but there was no one there. When I turned back to the mirror, the figure was still there, its face twisted into a cruel smile. It was me, but not me. The reflection's eyes were dark, filled with a malice that made my blood run cold. It raised its hand, and I felt a cold touch on my shoulder. I stumbled back, dropping my flashlight. The room was plunged into darkness, the hum growing louder, vibrating in my skull. And then I heard it, a voice, cold and distant, whispering in my ear.
"You're next."
I turned and ran, stumbling down the stairs and out the front door. I didn't stop until I reached the edge of the forest, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I looked back at the manor, its windows dark and empty, its silhouette looming against the night sky. I didn't know what had happened to Mia, Lila, or Jake. I didn't know if they were still in there, or if they were even alive. All I knew was that I had to get as far away from Blackwell Manor as possible. As I turned and ran into the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was following me. The hum was still there, faint but unmistakable, vibrating in my chest. And the voice, the cold, insidious voice, whispered in my ear over and over again.
"You're next."